I really don't know how to tell y'all folks this, but I've lost my voice for about a year, and I prayed about it, and I prayed about it, and I opened up the Bible to Genesis, and I read that Moses told God, said, well, you know, I stutter a lot. I don't want to do this. So I prayed a little bit more and prayed a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, it came to me. I have an Aaron in the family, my mother's third child. I don't claim him to be my brother, but he is my mother's third child. So he's going to help us. He's going to help us tonight. Get over this, okay? And hopefully next time, we can not fight each other as much. Okay, Jamie.
It irritates him no end every time he has to say that I am his mother's third child. He wants even further away than that. But we are here to talk about Lake City in 1948. And I might point out that Kent at this point was 1 year old. So he hardly remembers any of it.
Yeah,
I, on the other hand, was 7.
7 years old.
Yeah. I was 7, so obviously I remember what we're going to talk about tonight. But I do want to point out, you know, as always, that we're doing this courtesy of the Darla Moore Foundation. Without them, we absolutely could not do this series. And also, the Creative Alliance has been an important part of this, as well as the Continuum, and you, the members and sponsors of the Lynches Lake Historical Society. And I am being told to sit down. So, all right, we did that one. 1948, Dr. Jamie Cockfield was not only the dentist in town, one of them, but he was also the mayor. Notice the councilman. There were 6 at that time: Lannis Poston, Press Grimsley, Cecil Floyd, Boyd Nettles, Edgar Whitehead, and Fred Stalvey. I think most of you know who they are, maybe not all, but I'm not going to tell you who they were. Kent will.
Oh, well, Lannis Poston is R.L. Poston and Ann Poston's father. Press Grimsley is Phil Grimsley's father. Cecil Floyd is Dr. Eddie Floyd. Boyd Nettles is Miss Gladys Brake, father. Edgar Whitehead, you know who that was. That was the high principal of the elementary school. And Fred Stalvey was the cashier. They got robbed in 1934 at the Palmetto Bank.
All well-known people at this time, at 1948. Okay? These are some of the activities and some of the businesses that were in town at that time. Notice Champion Motor Company. They were having a contest at this point where, as they said, they wanted you to write an essay, basically on agriculture, motors, etc. And there were prizes for it. Now, Champion Motor, we're still trying to figure out who that was. Does anyone here remember anything of a Champion Motor? Nevertheless, they were a Lake City business. This is in 1948. On the other hand, the Lake City Auto Exchange. At this point, the Lake City Auto Exchange was on Ackline Avenue. It says on one side was the McClam Stables, and on the other side, it said that it was a seafood, an oyster and shrimp.
It's where Jim Richardson Joe Richardson probably could tell us, because that's some of his grandfather's buildings. It was a fish market, where the fish market was.
But it was on the other side on this side, the west side of Ackline.
Right. And notice the people on the bottom Willie Tart was an owner. Mr. Russell Humphreys was. Mr. George Cathy was also. Well, you know what happened to Willie Tart? He became the Pontiac and
Buick
no,
dealer.
The Buick dealer. Okay. Russell Humphreys was Ford, and Mr. George Cathy was a used car dealer in Scranton at the time.
Okay.
And then Coward, L.T. Coward.
Notice he's moving, is what it says. He's moving to the location that most of us knew, which is where the Dollar More Foundation is now. But I'm not exactly sure where he was. He was on the other side of the railroad track.
Do what now?
Where was L.T. Coward before?
L.T. Coward was on this side of the railroad track.
Yep.
And they replaced Dr. Timmons' father. Timmons IGA
Right.
moved to Salt Street.
Yep. So Timmons IGA had it was a grocery store. It wasn't an IGA at that point.
No.
It was Timmons Grocery Store was where Dollar More Foundation is. Then came L.T. Coward. So it followed. Okay, next.
And these are the businesses that were in town. In 1948, I think there's about 4 or 5 that are still in operation today.
It's really interesting to read. Sorry, we can't take the time to read each and every one. So whenever you get an opportunity to see the slide that will be sent to you, or the presentation of this video, really be worthwhile going through it and looking at it, because there are a lot of places there that bring back memories. You'll see things like J.S. Dixon Lumber. You'll see that a little bit later. You also see that W.L. Flowers was in Lake City at that time. You'll see things like Sparrow Tire, which was here forever, but things like Humphreys Music Company. You know, anybody ever hear of Humphreys Music Company? No, probably not. Yes, one of those businesses that came and went. How about Kildare Laundry? There you go. That was Harry Whitlock.
Yeah.
He and I'm
Yeah.
not sure who else was his
He and
partner.
I think Edward Whitlock.
Oh, Edward Whitlock, yes,
Edward,
we're
yeah,
partners.
We're together.
And that is now where the gallery is, the couple that move in.
On Rogers Avenue.
Yep, on Rogers Avenue. So there are several others in there. I like the Union Grill and Bus Station. Notice that the grill was open from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m.
And that was right down the street.
Yeah.
At the bus station.
Do not think about Lake City as having almost a 24-hour grill at that time, but nevertheless. And there were 2 other places to eat in Lake City at that time, the Mayflower and the Prossers, and I'm sure there were others as well. So I think those are some of the highlights, but once again, it's really interesting to go through these things and see exactly who these were and what they had to offer.
And we'll have this online in a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yep.
So you can look.
You can really look through it well.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, one more, simply because this is Cox Implement Company. Any of you remember John Henry Cox? Sammy and Maxie and Judy. And he was basically, I believe, the Ford tractor distributor, and it was on Thomas Street at the railroad track. It's where the beehive is painted on that building.
Well, Napa was.
Yep. Okay. This is an interesting one, where Barnwell Lee and Lamar bought Moultrie's store in Lake City, and this is in 1948.
And y'all know things about Mr. Barnwell Lee. You know, he would go over to the Scranton Cafe and beg for food. And he was Lamar Lee's brother. He didn't have to beg for food. He had a grocery store and Mariah Kenny had a grocery store on the railroad track in Scranton. And they bought Epps and Epps Furniture Company, or dry goods store. And it's right where,
Earl Holloway's.
no,
No.
where, it'll come to me in a minute.
Anderson?
No, down between Anderson and, I should be well versed on this, shouldn't I?
You can't remember everything. But at any rate, it was on that side of Ackline, which is between, on the south side, I don't mean Ackline, south side of Main Street, between Ackline and McAllister.
Yeah.
So it was on that
I
side.
could tell you in a few minutes, okay?
Kent, that photograph was taken in 48?
No, the photograph, that photograph has to have been in the late teens.
Yeah.
This is when the Epps bought it,
Yeah.
and built it, I should say.
This building was built in 1903. It was Adobo Store. And Mr. Van Epps and Mr. Moutrie Epps were cousins, and they opened up the store in 1903 and then sold it. Mr. Van got out of it to become the funeral home director and sold it to Mr. Moutrie.
Is that where Harley Lee's place is right now? Harley Lee? Is that?
No,
Part of it, if I'm not mistaken, is that little store over
it's
there.
across
That's
the
the
the street
beauty
from
products?
the Mexican restaurant.
That's what
Okay, yeah.
And the Lees is that Miss Margaret Floyd, Miss Cecil Floyd, Eddie's mother? That's her, his uncle? Dr. Eddie Floyd's uncle?
Yeah. God, I can't find it. Okay,
Okay.
okay. All right.
Okay, and here we go. Just a curiosity, the rat extermination campaign.
Yeah. Right. He has a rat problem at home. Bill has a rat problem at home.
Oh, Olin Powell, who most of you know about, was he was the ag teacher at the school.
Yeah.
And they organized this rat extermination program, and he was in charge. So you can see it got the local health department personnel involved, which consisted of H. Van Epps and R.L. Cockfield and W.B. Nettles.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I got to tell you, this is a curiosity to me. This was here in Lake City, and I graduated, this is in 48, I graduated 59, 11 years later. I promise I have absolutely no memories of Belk or A&P being there, though I definitely remember the Probst Theater.
Yeah.
I know, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how selective people's memories are, and particularly mine. I mean, why can't I remember that? Everybody else does.
Yeah. And it's right.
Right here.
Right here.
on this corner.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's empty now.
It's in between.
Probst, there was a gas station on the corner, then came Probst Theater, A&P and Belt, moving toward the post office.
And then a row of houses down to the church, the Methodist church.
What?
Bus station's down
It's on the
on the
next
south
block.
side. Yeah.
Did it go through that gas station?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Then
was,
they built.
that's right.
They built.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
Okay.
Okay?
And this is the inside. This is
Yep.
the inside. This was opening day.
And it's curious to me because this has got the same kind of design that they had at the Eagles store, which was on the other side, as you know,
Mercantile,
Main Street.
mercantile.
Yeah, Collins, they
Main
became
Street.
Collins Department Store
Yeah.
before they moved across the street. Mom worked in that one, and,
Okay.
yeah, it's the Lake City
this was,
Mercantile.
this was the magazine. And this was, I mean, it was big time. People would shop. Lake City.
You notice there's a band up on the
Yeah.
up on the mezzanine that they broadcast this. I think that's the next
Yeah.
slide.
No, it's back here.
Oh,
They
oh yeah, WJMX from Florence came in and broadcast, the opening of Belts. And
This was in February 1948.
Ken, when did WJOT start broadcasting?
1953. Okay.
yeah, I looked close at the faces, and there were none I could recognize in that crowd.
Yes.
Oh Lord, this is Grover Arick. Grover Arick, I assume, was the manager at the Colonial Store on East
Yeah.
Main Street. It was on the corner where the loan company is now, right? Ackline and Main Street.
No, it's next across the street from Truduck Hotel or BC Malls. It's where the fitness center is.
No, that was the Dixie Home Store. Grover Arick.
No, the Colonial Store became
Really?
Winn-Dixie, yeah.
Oh, I worked for Grover Arick.
Yeah.
All I can say.
See, we get in arguments.
Yin and yang.
The Green Frog.
Eddie.
Eddie Epps' great-grandfather opened it up in April, and it died in August of the same year. And then the following year, they sold everything as an auction in 1948.
So
And if you would notice this, I suppose, menu is on the wall going from Main Street to Saul Street in that little
alleyway.
alleyway.
Anybody know how they came up with that name?
Yeah. Yeah.
A great uncle.
This is great uncle. Yeah. Oh. The Green Frog jumps.
So many characters.
The Masonic Temple.
Yep.
Which is across the street. Where right beside, if I could say it, Sam Mack, Epps McClendon, insurance agent.
Yep. It's a two-story brick building that's across from El San Jose. There's a vacant lot between it. It's a two-story building, solid brick.
And
A Masonic Temple, notice it. The temple seems to be upstairs. The dining facility is downstairs.
And they moved it, when they closed it, the Lake City chapter went to Scranton. They're still in operation. But Lake City went to Scranton. People like Joe Webb, Jay Hyden, Mr. Burt Gary, Mr. Emmett Patrick.
As just a little background, the Masonic Temple was here in Lake City from the 1890s. They were
1876
I knew they
was
were.
the first year they had the Masonic Temple.
Yep.
here.
And their original temple was over where City Hall became, which is right there beside
Above.
the railroad station.
Right beside your,
That used to be a two-story building, and they
where
were upstairs.
where Jimmy's law office was,
Mm-hmm.
upstairs. It's torn down now. Parking rules, oh Lord.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have more on the parking rules. It seems like the town people could not come together in terms of what they wanted when it came to parking. But Chief Price must have really ticked off a lot of people, as you're going to see. First, he fines them
50 cents.
50 cents if they came and paid within 24 hours. If you took more than 24 hours, you got a letter and you were going to be charged $1. And if you didn't do that, he was coming after you. He was serious about getting his 50 cents or his dollar. So
I don't think Abel King would honor that. Okay.
notice the price on that, though. It says if they were to finish putting in the parking meters for the town, it cost them around $75,000. This is a 1948 money.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You can also see that the count, once the objections were raised, City Hall backed down real quick.
You know, if you wanted entertainment in Lake City, you could find it. I mean, we had boxing, we had horse racing, we had car racing, we had every kind of entertainment you wanted. Now, this is a picture that Mayor Kelly gave me of Lake City in 1957. And if you can see where Brown's racetrack was, there is a warehouse there. So that could give you a little indication of where it was. Mr. Brown was Melanie Brown, Jimmy Brown that had just died, Arnold Brown,
And Betty.
his father, okay. Had horse racing at the time, had a drive-in.
To be located at the racetrack.
Right, 3 races, 9 heaps. So it was big time in Lake City.
There's a lot of races. Okay.
1958,
48.
1948, had 5 graduates. 5. Why? Why you reckon we had? That's the least number of graduates in the history of Lake City High School. Why? Just think back. How many years did it take y'all to graduate?
Forever.
12.
Don't ask them. They might be
Okay.
embarrassed.
In 1947, state legislature bumped up the years to 12. So you had 5 graduates to graduate in 1948 to beat the 1949 12-year rule. We had Catherine Lackey, Dr. Evans, Dr. Sonny Evans, Buster Brown, John Graham, which lived in Scranton, Harold Gray, Dickie Russ, and Clyde Floyd. Those were the ones that did not graduate. The ones that did graduate was, tell them, Jamie, my voice is going.
Jacqueline Epps, do you know who she?
No, don't.
Okay, Robert Stedman, Randy Gravely, Dexter Huggins, and Howard Godwin.
Okay. The next year was 12 years. So you had 44 to graduate in 1949. And Mr. Dan Bushard got his master's degree in 1948.
Bobby Stillman was one of the first victims of casualties.
of the second, this is 48.
This is 48.
Yeah, but war was over in 45.
Yeah,
Korea.
Korea.
Excuse me. Okay.
Dr. Parks, 25 years. Y'all know, most of you knew Dr. Parks, you know, and he was the Presbyterian preacher forever. And they celebrated his 25th in 1948, and he kept on preaching. The Cub Scouts, it was big time in Lake City.
Almost every kid in town was a member. Now, I'm not sure what the age group was because
It was-
most of these are at least a couple of years older than I am.
9 to 12.
9 to 12, okay? So, I mean,
We'll give you a little second to read over it.
it's amazing to me. Even though I, as I say, a couple of years behind, I knew all these guys. So,
Howard Gowdy was the father of,
Trey Gowdy's
Trey
father.
Gowdy, the representative, the former representative.
Bobby Tucker.
Oh, Lord, I mean, they're all Asbury Williams, Logan Blakely, Dickie Green, James
You
R.
gotta speak up.
James Russell, Freddie McClam,
Herbert Timmons.
yeah, John McCutcheon, Tommy Cook, Howard King, Howard Floyd, just almost every kid in town.
Okay. Donkey game. Donkey baseball. Now I've heard of donkey basketball, but not donkey baseball. Okay. This was between the Lions Club.
You know, at that era, I think people had more time, and an idle mind comes up with crazy things. And they were all, what was it, the womanless wedding, and they were always coming up with some kind of foolishness like this.
Yeah.
But anything for a little entertainment. Okay, this is Russell Floyd announcing for the candidacy of House of Representative, and talks about who he was. I guess I never realized he was a World War II veteran, but probably every male was in Lake City at that point. He had served 2 years in the legislature prior to the war.
Prior to the war, right? Yep.
Okay.
And-
And had lost his previous bid, and trying again.
Okay.
And Harding
And
Cathy.
everybody that grew up in town that's our age has heard the tales of Harding Cathy. He was from Tennessee, and he pitched in the majors 12 games for the Washington Senators. And he went down in the minor league. And at one point, he refused to play and did not show up to take the bus trip. So he was suspended. And a group of guys, Harding Cathy was known throughout the South as a great pitcher and a great hitter. And Dad used to tell me that the guys would line up on the third base side, and they would say, and they would wave to Harding and say, okay, we got enough money. And he would just knock them out, strike them out. And he pitched no-hitters. He had, I think, 3 or 4 no-hitters during his career. He started in 1947 and ended in 1955.
The Lake City Truckers were a real interesting ball team.
And they were known as the Rebels also, known as the Truckers to start with. And then they moved from the high school to behind
Wentworth.
Manufacturing, and they became known as the Rebels.
It was really nice baseball stadium. Too bad it's gone.
And Lewis Flanagan was an outstanding first baseman. You wouldn't think that, and know Mr. Lewis, but he had a son that was a great first baseman too.
Yeah. Okay. Now, notice this. Russell Floyd announced his candidacy for the House, and here comes Mr. J.V. Carter, also announcing. So that must have been an interesting contest.
Yeah,
And it's amazing how the themes, political themes, run so consistent over time. His main qualification is he's a businessman and can bring pragmatic solutions to problems. How often have we heard that one?
yeah. Favored farm to market roads, adequate pay for teachers, compensation for public servants. Sounds familiar.
It does.
Sounds familiar. Polio.
Oh,
Polio. The only person that I knew that had polio was who? Okay,
Henry
Henry
McElveen.
McElveen.
but it shut down the town.
Yeah,
This is at least 2 weeks that they closed. From the August 29 is this announcement. Not going to reopen until September 15.
and also the churches and other activities were suspended during this period of time. Kind of familiar today, isn't it? 15 days, 2 weeks, quarantine.
Oh, yes. School board trustees. Now, Mr. R. Whitlock is on the front row, Joe Dew, in the back left is J.S. Eady, and that's Mr. J.R. Bowen in the middle, and Dr. Dexter M. Evans on the right. And the superintendent at this time was Mr. J. Paul Trulock. Principal was J. Dan Bushart. And high school faculty, personally, I can recognize about half of them. I don't know how the rest of you are, but if I go around, there's Olin Powell. I don't know the next two. That's Ms. Green, that's Ms. Gravely, Miss Emily Askins.
Miss Holly Myers.
Myers?
Yeah, they taught biology in about 1970, right?
Oh.
71.
I didn't have her. But then Mr. Flanagan, Ms. Flanagan, and this lady,
I don't know.
I don't know. Don't recall her. Anybody? Nope. Okay.
Okay.
Once again, they talking about delaying, but notice that they also put in, got to have a vaccination for
And
smallpox.
anybody that was born before November the 1st could enter the first grade. That was 6 years old. And it still applies today. That had the vaccination. That's kind of familiar today, isn't it? Got to have the polio vaccination
Some
to get
things
it.
keep repeating.
Yeah. Don't have to work. You can come back and revisit this. Okay.
Yeah, 1948. Yeah, it was interesting to me because I had kind of forgotten who some of my teachers were. But seeing this, I definitely remember who my teachers were in elementary school now.
Yeah. Miss
Yeah.
Bundy was my first grade teacher.
So I had Miss McIntyre in second grade
And Lizzie Gray,
and Annie Myrtle Belt in third grade. Annie Myrtle Belt was a trip. Anybody didn't know her,
Yeah.
missed somebody. She scared the bejeebers out of me. because almost every Sunday she'd come up, she'd grab me by the cheek and say, "I'm gonna marry you."
Well, no, that was also, that was Miss Elizabeth Rittenbaker too.
Miss Ritten, I didn't get close to Miss Rittenberger.
No.
She could not have gotten close to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some real interesting people.
But, you know, it's funny how Jamie's 6 years older than I am. We got the same teachers. Claire's 10 years older than I am. We had the same teachers. So, you know, they had to be pretty good. This is the 48 football team. This is not real clear, but you got Dr. John, Jimmy, True Luck at the end.
There are 26 players in that picture, which, given the size of the school at that time, is a significant number.
Yeah, everybody played
Something.
something.
When I was playing football in the late 50s, we had the same uniforms.
Yeah. Christmas lights were put up. And they stayed up the whole year.
Oh yeah, you get them up.
But you had to volunteer firemen to put them up. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure Willie Cook, the mayor-elect, had to look good, so he got out there, putting them up too.
Yeah.
Okay.
A minute. Let's see if I can do that. There's your sign, Woody. Hotel Trula. And here. Okay.
Candidates for office. Jamie Cockfield, Boyd Nettles, Willie Cook, and Joe Davis. And 14 people looking for the 6th post on city council.
Would you believe that? Can't find one today.
I know, civic involvement was high at that time. Cecil Floyd, Press Grimsley. You can see a lot of these had run before. I don't know about J.J. Hayden, but certainly Landis had, Sidney Nettles, Benny Timmons. I don't know Benny Timmons, but
Raymond Askins.
Arthur Anderson, L.L. Probst, Hoyt B. Hill, Sid Rittenbaker, Mims Merritt, J.D. Rhodes, and L.L. Benton, all running.
All ran.
That's a mess of people.
Okay, Jamie,
Okay.
take over there.
Okay. Now, a little bit. These are the results. Unfortunately, what we see is that one of the first things that happened is that the new council got themselves a new police officer. I'd love to know why. I would love to trace it back to that parking dispute, but it could have been anything. Okay. City employees re-elected were Covington, Superintendent of Streets, Forrest Rogers, who assisted him, and L.L. Conyers in the street department. Walter Moody was and stayed fire chief, seems like forever. And Ms. Margaret Duke was always a city clerk as far as I knew, and Mr. Rittenbaker was the assistant. Mayor Pro Tem Landis Poston and R.R. Whitlock was city attorney. And the police force consisted of Mr. Bridges, McGee, Keefe, and Hines.
Okay.
And let's see, that's pretty much it. They apparently put a lot of emphasis on the Board of Health back then. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay, back to the parking controversy. The citizens voted to install parking meters. You know, kind of a surprise. what is surprised, 109 total votes for office. What's interesting to me is that in the primary, they had 800 votes cast. But come the actual election, only 109. But 109 still represent the largest ever vote cast in the general election.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Some of you may remember this building still exists, the Legion Hut. It was, at one point, it was kind of a general facility. Anybody could rent it for.
Remember that it was long too, remember?
Yeah.
Part burned.
It burned, right.
Part burned, because you used to have,
Bands, you used to have
all
dances.
kinds of stuff.
Dances and stuff, yeah.
Yep.
They're all
Yeah.
gone.
Yep.
Then it burned. It's been sold now.
It has.
We think Howard Godwin bought it, we think Howard Godwin bought all that from Luke Rule,
Okay.
we think.
Okay.
Okay. Cost $21,000 to build, to both sections. Dr. Leake was a vet in town. And I think I told y'all before that Dad told me that Dr. Leake would eat his lunch while operating on a dog or whatever, wasn't too sanitary. And his wife would go to Propitiate on Saturday and watch the triple features or the double features and stay that whole day. And we sit in the back.
Notice where his office was. It was King, Edie, and Singletary's stable. This is a picture of Hotel the Dog, which is on Ackline, but that came later.
Yeah.
His office was actually in the stable, one of the mule stables.
It was the Truluck Stables where the B.C. Moores was.
Okay.
Okay.
And finally, one of the last things that happened in Lake City that year was for the Jewish community, the erection of a temple over in King Street. Says it was brick veneer, cost about $15,000, and at this point was 3/4 completed. The building committee was J.J. Hayden, whom we know, and Ms. Simon Libbert.
Miss Libbert was Miss Bessie's mother.
Mm-hmm. So, I think, I'm not sure, but I think that temple has been closed.
Yes.
There's a cemetery still
Yeah.
there, but that's about all that's left.
Okay.
Okay,
Hold on. Go ahead. I'll be right back.
this is the end of the year, the beginning of the next, and who our leaders are. Willie Cook, Cecil Floyd, Landis Poston, Mims Merritt, Leroy Benton, Raymond Askins, and Arthur Anderson. There has been turnover here at the council seat at this point.
Okay.
And this is a picture that I put in. I'm not sure the title is correct. I was given this picture by Shane Patrick. He was cleaning out the office. And that led me to believe it might be the Baptist church. However, that is not identifiable as part of the church. Initially, I thought it was the basement. But when I look at the windows and the doors, they're wrong. So I'm not sure that is. The vast majority of the people in this picture are, in fact, people that I recognize from the Baptist church, but not all of them.
That's Mr. Harry Woodlock,
Yep,
Mr. Orwell Cockfield,
yep.
Howard Floyd, and his brother Donald.
Don Floyd,
Bruce
King.
King, Butch King. Butch King. Miss Cecil
Cecil Rogers.
Rogers,
And her husband.
her husband.
And it's curious, she's the only woman in the picture, as you can see.
No, that's a girl.
And so why is she
That's a little
there?
girl. That's a little girl right there, I think.
That's who?
I think that's a little.
No, there's no.
All right.
Nope,
Okay.
that's Bill Odom in that, which
Okay.
kind of confuses me because he was always Presbyterian. And so I'm not sure that this, I'm not exactly sure what this is. But it is an interesting picture of many of the people that you would know during that period of time.
This is Warren Carter.
Yep, Warren Carter, Wayne Sloan is next to
Yeah.
him, and then Arthur Anderson next to him. Our father is in the back.
Yeah.
I think that's Gordon Whitlock
Yeah.
in front of him.
Right here.
But
Okay.
somebody correct me. I would love to get a little bit more confirmation on some of these names because most of them, I gotta admit, except for the adults on the far side, I don't recognize very many of the kids. So,
Okay. Okay. Eddie, how about Patsy's out? Y'all do know Dr. Tommy Cook, guy named Ben Cook, Mr. Louis Cook, and you also know a guy named Marion Fowler. They got in trouble, and Florence, Jamie, they tell the folks about
Yeah.
the trouble.
I can just see it. Mr. Louis Cook drives up in front of the railroad station in Florence. He's with Mr. Fowler, and Mr. Fowler gets out, and as he does, a taxi pulls in behind him. He's in a no parking spot. There's a policeman standing right there. He doesn't interfere. Except apparently the taxi blocks Mr. Cook. Mr. Cook raises a fuss. Move, if you will. Not going to move. It's a taxi zone. So Mr. Fowler comes out, asks the policeman, to help him move. Policeman doesn't want to interfere. So Mr. Fowler goes into the train station and calls the chief of police in Florence, trying to pull a little influence here. When he comes out, apparently it aggravated the police officer so much, he took a swing at Mr. Fowler and must have knocked him down, knocked his hat off, and left him with some bruises. And apparently that didn't end the dispute because the policeman ended up arresting both of them. Mr. Fowler was arrested and taken to jail for disorderly conduct.
And you know, Mr. Fowler, he's got a mouth 100 miles an hour. I could see him right now.
And Mr. Cook was arrested for illegal parking.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Apparently they had some pull because the charges did get dropped. It never actually came to trial.
$24 fine for both of them.
But apparently it raised a little stink because we can't find it, but it says the Lake City News has tried, convicted, and sentenced the police officer in one clip.
Yeah.
And the Florence Morning News was a little indignant about that.
Okay. Next time, 1949. Thank y'all for coming. I hope we didn't bore you too much.